Listen carefully to what I'm about to tell you, because in the next few minutes, you're going to discover something that will change how you wake up forever. Right now, you probably start your mornings in one of two ways. Either you grab your phone immediately, or you lie there worrying about everything you have to do. But what if I told you there's a third way? A way that takes less than 2 minutes, but can transform your entire day before you even get out of bed? This isn't some feel-good nonsense or positive thinking trick. This is about rewiring your brain at the most important moment of your day, the moment you wake up. Because here's what most people don't realize. The first thoughts you think each morning don't just affect your mood. They literally shape your reality. She opened her eyes that Tuesday morning, just like any other day. But this time, instead of immediately reaching for a phone or worrying about the day ahead, she did something different. She stayed still for just 30 seconds and noticed something simple. She was breathing. Her heart was beating. She was alive. This wasn't some grand spiritual moment. It was just her choosing to pay attention to what was already there. The ancient teachers understood something we often miss. The way you wake up determines how you live. When you consciously choose to acknowledge your first breath instead of jumping into automatic mode, you're doing something revolutionary. You're telling your mind that this day matters, that you matter, and that you're going to be present for your own life. Most people wake up already running, already stressed, already somewhere else in their minds. But when you take those first few seconds to simply notice that you're here, alive, breathing, you're setting a different tone. You're not trying to be spiritual or perfect. You're just being honest about the miracle that you often take for granted. Before her feet even touched the floor, she would think of 3 things. Not big, dramatic things. Just 3 simple truths about her life right now. Today, it was her warm bed, the sound of birds outside, and the fact that she had coffee waiting in the kitchen. Small things. Real things. Things that were actually there. This isn't about pretending everything is perfect or ignoring real problems. It's about training your mind to notice what's working before you dive into what's broken. Your brain naturally looks for problems. It's trying to keep you safe. But when you consciously point it toward what's good, even tiny things, you're creating a new habit. The magic isn't in the things themselves. The magic is in the act of looking for them. When you search for 3 good things every morning, your mind starts looking for good things throughout the day. It's like switching from a radio station that only plays complaints to one that notices beauty, comfort, and small victories. What happened next surprised her. After just 2 weeks of this simple practice, she noticed her mind had started to change. She wasn't trying to be positive or forcing fake happiness. Instead, she found herself naturally noticing things she used to miss. The taste of her morning tea, a text from a friend, the way sunlight hit her kitchen table. Your mind is like a muscle that grows stronger with practice. When you repeatedly focus on appreciation, you're literally building new neural pathways. You're teaching your brain that there's always something worth noticing, something worth valuing, even on ordinary days. This isn't about becoming someone who ignores problems or lives in denial. It's about becoming someone whose default setting is noticing abundance instead of scarcity. Instead of waking up thinking about what's missing, you start waking up aware of what's present. The real test came when she faced her first truly difficult day with this new practice. She had lost her job the day before, and waking up felt heavy. But instead of abandoning her morning gratitude, she tried something that seemed almost impossible. She looked for what this challenge might teach her. This is where most people think gratitude becomes fake or forced. But there's a difference between being grateful for bad things and being grateful for your ability to handle them. She wasn't thankful for losing her job. She was thankful for her resilience, for the friends who offered support, for the skills she had that would help her find something new. When you can find even one small thing to appreciate during your hardest moments, You're not denying the difficulty. You're refusing to let the difficulty be the only story. You're training yourself to see the whole picture, including your own strengths and the help that's available to you. As weeks passed, she began to understand the difference between saying thank you out of habit and feeling genuine appreciation. Surface gratitude is like reading words off a page. Deep gratitude is like feeling music in your bones. Deep gratitude happens when you slow down enough to really feel what you're acknowledging. When you say you're grateful for your health, you actually pause and notice how your body feels. When you appreciate a friendship, you remember a specific moment when that person made you smile. The difference is presence. Surface gratitude is rushed, automatic, checkbox thinking. Deep gratitude takes a moment to actually connect with what you're appreciating. It's the difference between saying you love someone and actually feeling that love in your chest. The morning her father went to the hospital, practicing gratitude felt impossible. How could she find anything to appreciate when she was scared and worried? But she had learned something important. Gratitude isn't about pretending everything is okay. It's about finding solid ground when everything feels shaky. That morning, she was grateful for the doctors who were helping, for her ability to be there for her family, for the strength she didn't know she had. She wasn't grateful for the crisis. She was grateful for what was helping her through it. This is when gratitude becomes a real tool instead of just a nice idea. When life gets hard, appreciation becomes your anchor. It doesn't make the problems disappear, but it reminds you that even in difficult times, you're not completely powerless. There's always something, your courage, someone's kindness, your ability to hope, that deserves recognition. He had always been the type of person who planned everything twice. Every project at work, every weekend, every conversation, he would imagine exactly how things should go and then feel frustrated when reality didn't match his mental picture. It took him years to realize that his planning wasn't the problem. The problem was his attachment to those plans working out exactly as he imagined. Most of us carry around invisible chains made of expectations. We decide how our day should go, how people should respond to us, how our efforts should pay off. Then we spend our energy fighting reality when it doesn't cooperate. But there's a different way to live, one that involves doing your best and then stepping back to see what actually happens. She learned this lesson in her garden. Every spring, she would plant tomatoes, water them carefully, give them good soil, and protect them from pests. But she couldn't control the weather, the exact timing of growth, or whether every seed would sprout. Her job was to plant and tend. Nature's job was to do the growing. This became her approach to everything. At work, she would prepare thoroughly for presentations and let go of trying to control every reaction. In relationships, she would offer kindness and honesty, then allow others to respond however they chose. She planted seeds everywhere, seeds of effort, care, and intention, without demanding specific harvests. The breakthrough came when he realized there was a difference between caring about something and being anxious about it. He could work hard on a project, put in his best thinking, and review everything twice, all while holding his plans lightly. The work was the same, but the energy was completely different. Anxiety comes from trying to control things beyond your influence. Healthy effort comes from focusing on what you actually can control: your preparation, your attitude, your response to whatever happens. When you separate these two things, work becomes lighter and more effective. After months of practicing this new approach, something unexpected happened to her. Instead of feeling scared when plans changed, she started feeling curious. When a meeting got canceled, instead of frustration, she felt a small spark of interest about what would happen instead. When a project took an unexpected turn, she found herself genuinely wanting to see where it would lead. Uncertainty stopped being the enemy and became an adventure. Not because she was forcing herself to be positive, but because she had stopped insisting that life follow her script. When you're not fighting reality, you have energy left over to actually engage with whatever is happening. His biggest promotion came the year he stopped trying so hard to get promoted. This wasn't because he became lazy or stopped caring. He still worked diligently, still contributed ideas, still showed up fully. But he had released his death grip on the outcome. He did good work because good work mattered to him, not because he was trying to force a specific result. This is the paradox that changes everything. When you stop grasping so tightly for what you want, you often end up getting more than you expected. Not through magic, but because desperation and control create tension that blocks natural flow. Relaxed effort is more effective than anxious effort. The final lesson came during the most uncertain time of her life. Her company was restructuring, her relationship was changing, and she didn't know what any of it meant for her future. In the past, this would have sent her into planning overdrive, trying to control every variable. Instead, she found herself strangely calm. She had learned to distinguish between preparing wisely and trying to control outcomes. She updated her resume, had honest conversations, and made practical preparations. But she also practiced something that felt revolutionary, trusting that she could handle whatever came next, even if she couldn't predict or control what that would be. Maria spent most of her 20s feeling isolated and angry. She would come home from work drained, complaining about difficult coworkers, rude customers, and inconsiderate drivers. Every day felt like a battle against people who just didn't get it. Then something shifted when she realized that her anger wasn't protecting her from anything. It was actually making her more miserable than the people she was angry at. Compassion isn't about being nice or letting people walk all over you. It's about recognizing that carrying resentment is like drinking poison and expecting someone else to get sick. When you choose to see others with understanding instead of judgment, you're not doing them a favor. You're freeing yourself from the exhaustion of constant irritation. The hardest person for him to be kind to was himself. He would forgive friends for mistakes that he would beat himself up about for weeks. He spoke to himself in ways he would never speak to anyone he cared about. Learning to treat himself with the same patience he showed others became his first real lesson in compassion. You can't give what you don't have. If you're harsh and critical with yourself, that harshness will leak into how you see everyone else. But when you learn to be gentle with your own mistakes and struggles, that gentleness becomes available for others too. Self-compassion isn't selfish. It's the foundation that makes all other compassion possible. She started noticing something strange during her daily commute. The angry driver cutting people off might be rushing to see a sick parent. The rude cashier might be working 2 jobs to pay for school. The difficult coworker might be going through a divorce. She wasn't making excuses for bad behavior, but she was starting to see that everyone was fighting battles she knew nothing about. This awareness changed everything. Instead of taking things personally, she began seeing most rudeness and inconsideration as signs that someone was struggling. Not everyone who seems difficult is actually difficult. Sometimes they're just having a hard time being human that day. What surprised him most was how much energy he had been using to maintain invisible walls between himself and others. US versus them. Good people versus bad people. People who deserve kindness versus people who don't. These categories required constant mental effort to maintain, and they were exhausting him without him even realizing it. When he stopped sorting people into boxes and started seeing everyone as fellow travelers having a human experience, those walls came down. He didn't become naive or stop setting boundaries. He just stopped carrying around the heavy burden of deciding who was worthy of basic human understanding. The real test came when she had to deal with someone who had genuinely hurt her. Her first instinct was to close her heart, to protect herself by becoming cold and distant. But she had learned something important. You can acknowledge someone's harmful actions while still seeing their humanity. You can set firm boundaries while still holding compassion for their pain. Unconditional love doesn't mean accepting unacceptable behavior. It means recognizing that even people who do harmful things are still human beings who are suffering in some way. This understanding doesn't excuse their actions, but it keeps your heart from hardening into bitterness. Years later, she looked back and realized that learning to see with compassionate eyes had healed wounds she didn't even know she was carrying. The chronic tension in her shoulders had disappeared. She slept better. Her relationships were deeper and more authentic. She had more energy for the things that actually mattered to her. Compassion had turned out to be the most practical thing she had ever learned. Not because it made her a better person in some abstract way, but because it made her life actually work better. When you're not constantly defending yourself against the world, you have so much more energy available for joy, creativity, and connection. David had spent years trying to keep things exactly as they were. His favorite restaurant, his comfortable routines, his predictable job, his familiar relationships. Change felt like loss, like something valuable being taken away. But when his company relocated him to a new city, he discovered something unexpected. Change wasn't the enemy he thought it was. It was actually life's way of offering him new possibilities he never would have chosen for himself. Every ending is also a beginning, but most people only see the ending part. When you lose a job, you also gain time to discover what you really want to do. When a relationship ends, you also create space for new connections. When your kids leave home, you also rediscover who you are outside of being a parent. Change always brings gifts, but you have to be willing to see them. She had always been terrified of getting older, of losing her looks, her health, her relevance. But as she learned to see change as natural rather than tragic, something shifted. She stopped trying to freeze time and started appreciating each stage of life for what it offered. Her 40s brought wisdom her 20s couldn't have. Her changing body told the story of a life fully lived. Fear of change is really fear of loss. But when you understand that everything is always changing anyway, you stop wasting energy trying to hold on to things that were never permanent to begin with. Instead of clinging to what's leaving, you can open your hands to receive what's coming. He started noticing this first with flowers. A rose was most beautiful, not in spite of the fact that it would wilt, but because of it. Its temporary nature made each petal precious, each moment of bloom miraculous. The same principle applied to everything. Summer afternoons, his daughter's childhood, conversations with his aging parents. Their temporary nature didn't make them less valuable. It made them infinitely more precious. When you truly understand that nothing lasts forever, you stop taking things for granted. You pay attention to the taste of your morning coffee, the sound of your friend's laugh, the feeling of sun on your face. Knowing that moments are limited makes you present for them in a way that assuming they'll last forever never could. The river never fought against the rocks in its path. It simply found ways around them, over them, through them. Sarah began to see herself as water instead of stone. When obstacles appeared, instead of trying to smash through them or becoming rigid with resistance, she looked for ways to flow around them, to adapt her shape while keeping her essential nature. This didn't make her weak or passive. Water is one of the most powerful forces on Earth, but it's powerful precisely because it doesn't resist, it persists. It finds the path of least resistance while never giving up on reaching its destination. You can be strong and flexible at the same time. When his father was diagnosed with cancer, everything became clear in a way it had never been before. The things that had seemed so important, the career stress, the neighborhood drama, the political arguments suddenly revealed themselves as noise. What mattered was time, presence, love, and the precious moments that remained. Death isn't the opposite of life. It's what gives life meaning. When you remember that your time here is limited, you stop wasting it on things that don't matter. You say the things you need to say, spend time with the people you love, and do the work that actually feeds your soul. The awareness of ending makes everything more vivid and real. The most surprising discovery was that she found her balance not by standing still, but by learning to dance with change. Like riding a bicycle, stability came through movement, not through trying to remain fixed in one position. She developed a core of calm that could bend without breaking, that could adapt without losing its center. True stability isn't about preventing change. It's about developing the inner strength to handle whatever changes come. When you stop trying to control the external world and start building internal resilience, you become unshakable, not because nothing can touch you, but because you know you can handle whatever does. Jessica discovered something strange about happiness. She had been looking for it everywhere except where it actually lived. She chased promotions thinking they would make her happy, planned vacations believing they would bring joy, bought things hoping they would fill the empty feeling inside. But happiness, she realized, wasn't waiting for her in the future or hiding in her past. It was right here, right now, in this very moment she kept missing. Most people spend their entire lives waiting for happiness to arrive, not realizing it's already here. It's in the breath you're taking right now, in the fact that your heart is beating, in the simple miracle of being aware and alive. But you have to be present to receive it. You can't experience the joy of this moment while your mind is somewhere else. His mind was like a hyperactive child, constantly jumping from thought to thought, worry to worry, memory to fantasy. He would sit down to eat lunch and find himself mentally reviewing the morning's meetings, planning the afternoon's tasks, and worrying about tomorrow's deadlines, all while completely missing the taste of his food. Learning to anchor his attention was like training a puppy. Every time his mind wandered off, he would gently bring it back to whatever was actually happening. The temperature of his coffee, the texture of his sandwich, the sound of rain on the window. It wasn't about stopping thoughts, but about choosing where to place his attention. She began to see that the most extraordinary experiences were hiding inside the most ordinary moments. Washing dishes became a meditation on warm water and soap bubbles. Walking to work became an adventure of noticing sidewalk cracks, morning light, and the expressions on strangers' faces. Her daily commute transformed from dead time into discovery time. This wasn't about pretending that mundane tasks were exciting. It was about recognizing that every moment contains infinite details and sensations that you miss when your attention is elsewhere. When you bring full awareness to any activity, even folding laundry becomes interesting because you're actually there to experience it. The biggest breakthrough came when he learned the difference between having thoughts and being controlled by them. Instead of fighting with his anxious thoughts or trying to make them go away, he started observing them like clouds passing through the sky of his mind. Some thoughts were dark and stormy, others light and fluffy, but none of them were permanent. This observer part of himself was always calm, always present, always okay, no matter what thoughts or emotions were passing through. He didn't have to believe every thought or be hijacked by every feeling. He could watch them come and go while remaining centered in the part of himself that was doing the watching. Her relationships transformed when she learned to be fully present with other people. Instead of thinking about what she would say next or judging what they were saying, she practiced simply listening. Really listening, with her whole attention focused on understanding and connecting rather than responding or defending. People could feel the difference. When someone gives you their complete attention, it's like being seen and heard for the first time. Conversations became deeper, conflicts resolved more easily, and her connections with others grew stronger. Presence turned out to be the greatest gift she could give to anyone, including herself. After months of practicing presence, something unexpected happened to him. In quiet moments of complete awareness, he began to sense something vast and peaceful underneath all his thoughts and emotions. It wasn't something he had to create or achieve. It was something that had always been there, waiting to be noticed. This awareness wasn't his thoughts about himself. his worries about the future, or his memories of the past. It was the pure consciousness that experienced all of those things but wasn't limited by any of them. In those moments of recognition, he understood that his essential nature was already whole, already peaceful, already free. You now have something powerful in your hands. 5 simple phrases that can reshape your mornings and transform your entire life. But here's the thing. Knowledge without action is just entertainment. The real magic happens when you actually try this tomorrow morning. When you wake up and practice gratitude before grabbing your phone. When you let go of trying to control your day and instead focus on being present for whatever comes. I want to hear about your journey. Try these 5 practices for just 1 week and tell me what changes in the comments below. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear to start their own transformation. If this video helped you see your mornings differently, hit that subscribe button. There's so much more wisdom to explore together, and I don't want you to miss any of it. And please, share this with someone who could use a better way to start their day. Sometimes the smallest shift in how we begin can change everything that follows. Your transformation starts tomorrow morning. Are you ready?